Hello and welcome to CRU News. I am Khushbu Soni, your host for the broadcast and chief editor at CRU News. This is our exclusive interview series and my favorite, which is Wonder Woman in Tech. It is a recorded session and will be available on our website, that is crunews.co.in, and our CRU News LinkedIn handle. It gives me a pleasure to invite our Wonder Woman in Tech. She is Madhavi Kanumoori, Chief Digital and Information Officer at Birla Corporate. Madhavi is an IT leader with a passion for driving innovative solutions through contemporary technologies backed by solid cross-business functional experience. Madhavi excels at building and leading large organizations by inculcating a true sense of purpose while spinning off agile mission-based motivated teams for high impact outcomes. She is an experienced leader in the technology space, and Madhavi, it's an absolute pleasure to have you today.
Pleasure is all mine, Khushbu. Thanks for having me in this forum. I'm very excited to talk. This is a topic of deep interest for me as well, so appreciate the opportunity.
Great, awesome. Madhavi, my first question is, if you can share a little bit about, what is your typical day looks like, being a woman, and also, managing both your personal life and your work life. So how does your typical day look like?
Yeah, I guess before we get to the typical day, I guess let me kind of talk about what I'm chartered with, right? So major part of my job is about formulating and executing the strategy and roadmap for digital transformation for the business, ensuring that we are optimally executing with the right operational efficiencies and looking at digital as an edge, right? This kind of becomes the background for a typical day, which I don't think exists, to be quite honest. I don't think there's a typical day, but I guess what I can absolutely articulate is what my overall life looks like professionally and personally, right? Like I said, because it's around the strategy and execution of IT priorities and digital priorities for the business, a lot of the time goes into how we build that strategy and how we build a roadmap that can be executed with the right rigor for business outcomes. All right. So a lot of the time goes around, ensuring that we have a agile but very solid plan from the roadmap and execution standpoint, and the rest of the activities through the year are kind of aligned towards that, right? So a lot of my time gets spent in review meetings, project programs, initiative reviews, a lot of meetings with the leaderships across the business, and stakeholder meetings, more around influencing the strategy, looking at what business outcomes this delivers and stuff. I do a lot of work with partners, both internal and external, whether it's technology, consulting, operational partners, and internally with the other partners within the group, and also external industry forums and connects, because these are very important to ensure that we were driving in the right direction. And the other very important aspect of my role is around mentoring and coaching and talent development to kind of align these activities, right? So that's where my major part of the time gets spent. I wouldn't say there's a typical day, but if you look at the overall spectrum, it's, the combination of these.
Right, right. Awesome. Great. My next question is, did you always know that you wanted to work in the technology space? And if it was not technology, what else it would have been?
That's a great question. I think now you kind of asked the way you did. I have to say, I probably did not know that I wanted to be in technology all the time. But what I can say is when I reflected on this question, when you kind of alluded to it, is, I think I kind of followed my passion. I didn't know it at that time. And I actually didn't know when, early on in my career, what leaders meant when they said, follow your passion. But reflecting on my own journey and how I ended up where I am today, kind of all relates, right? It's all about what interests you, where you get a fire in the belly for, what excites you the most. And I kind of can actually trace it back to the time that I had a workshop that I took. This was back in school days. I was in high school and I took a workshop where it was back then called expert systems, what we call artificial intelligence today, where there was a program or a workshop where we could actually feed in data and facts. Today we call it intelligence, but we fed data and facts into a program on a software, on a machine, and it would actually kind of spin out results that could actually make sense to me, like a human being, right? Didn't Had no idea this was what was going to turn into artificial intelligence in the future, but it fascinated me that this is possible, right? So that's, I guess, the first step into kind of getting excited about technology and where this would go. And lo and behold, I think the next steps that I took kind of naturally kind of gravitated towards technology, and I just love the space.
Right.
You asked the question on if it wasn't this, what would it be? And again, at that time, I didn't know it was technology, but I kind of naturally started, getting attracted towards it. But what I had in mind was I wanted to be a doctor, a heart surgeon, if you. I was that specific, right? So, but destiny didn't take me there. It led me to this path. But I'm super excited to be in this field.
Nice. Great. Um, Great. My next question is reflecting back on your career and personal life. What are some of the key challenges you faced, and how did you kind of navigate through that?
Yeah, that's another great question. And again, a lot of us will have a lot of examples, and even in my own life, right? There have been lots of crossroads, if you will, that I had to kind of navigate and cross. We talk about personal and professional life, but in my mind, these two are not separate, right? Every decision you make, if you think you're making a personal decision, it has an impact or a effect on your professional life, right? Good, bad, ugly, but it does have an effect, right? And vice versa, right? If you're making a decision that you think is professional, it has an impact on your personal life. So I guess the two are very intertwined and interlinked. So it's kind of difficult to separate from the other. So I'll just talk about life experiences, if you will. And like I said, I think there have been many, but I tried to kind of think through and said, okay, what are some of the things that I can talk about that might, kind of drive a point, right? So I'll talk about a couple or three examples of some of the choices that I had to make and how I navigated through that, right? I'm a very professionally oriented person, and I'm driven by what I do at work. That does not mean that I don't have a personal life, right? I mean, all of us have personal lives, and that's very important to us. That comes as a given. But I think if I reflect back, everything kind of boils down to two things for me. One is passion, and the other is it's all about experience, right? I don't think I've ever made a decision thinking about, okay, where will this lead to, or what would my next step be if I did this? I only went with the, mindset of, is this something I'm going to enjoy? Do I have a passion for it? Do I have a fire in the belly for it? Is it something that I've never done before? Will it give me a kick, right? So for me, it's about just having had that experience and what that experience means to me. It's all about experience. So with that said, I think one of the choices that I can talk about is I was working for a company. This was much junior. I was much junior in my career growth, maybe mid-career at the time, or early mid-career, you can say. And I loved the job. There was a lot of learnings that I was getting, and one of the companies that the company that I worked for was pretty global. It was giving me a really good experience, and that was the point in time that I had my first child. So again, these two things always kind of come together, right? Your professional and personal lives. And when I had my first child, and again, I didn't know that this was going to happen, and I took the job, right? The job needed that I was supposed to be in the office. It's a global company, but a lot of the work that I was involved with was getting done in from that particular office. So it was very important for being present in the office, right? And when my first child was born, it was a little hard to balance that, right? Little child going to work every day, long hours, and all that stuff. So I tried talking through it, but it didn't work. It didn't work for the company. And at that time, I had to make a decision, right, between personal and professional life. And like I said, I'm a very professionally career-oriented person. Um, but I was at those crossroads, and sometimes you have to prioritize one over the other.
Right.
Very tough decision to make. Very, very tough. I thought through a lot. I even tried to kind of pull it through for some time. It was very tough. So I took a call without having another job in hand to actually leave the job. Right. So I mean, at that time, it was so hard to do because it's not me. I mean, it's not me that I would not be working. I didn't know if I'll get another job. That's what goes through your mind when you're
Right.
leaving a job without another job, right? Don't know what the future is going to be. But I made the call because that was the right call to make at that point in time for the experience that I was looking for. Um, and it played out well. I mean, I actually found another job within 3 months that I kind of put this on the table upfront because I now know my situation and now know where I am. And I now know what I'm looking for, even from the work environment, right? So it was a matter of 3 months, which gave me a really good time to reflect and also, care for my child, but also gave me the opportunity to get back to work within 3 months. So that was one tough choice. Sometimes you don't know where the next move is, but do the right thing, right?
Correct.
The other experience I can talk about is another company that I was working for. I think my pay was decent. I had good work-life balance. Um, Beautiful product line, beautiful business, very motivating. But what I was doing was not something that I was enjoying a lot. Right? I felt like I could do much more. The environment was not such that it was meant for my kind of excitement. Um, and again, I had made a decision to work for this company with the job that I had due to some other personal reasons, and we can talk about that at a different time when the opportunity provides. But I made that decision for that kind of experience. But then I figured that it was probably not the right choice for me. But then this was a call that we had made as a family, where we had made a big move from one city to another city, moving the entire family with no other ecosystem. Just had settled in with a new home, but I was not happy doing what I was doing. And again, like I said, for me, everything is passion and experience. My experience at work was not that great. And again, I had to make a tough call at that time. This time I made a call to take a job at another city. But my husband was not going to be able to move with me because he was settled in his job and he was doing very well. I had two young kids. What do I do?
Yeah.
Right. So um, I was very blessed. I am very blessed. My husband supported me. My parents were with me at the time, and they said, "Look, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, you got to make some calls, and we're with you to support whatever decisions you make." Right.
Right.
So the family came together. Very good support from that standpoint, and that gave me a lot of energy and motivation to make that call. And this was a call that I had to make where the condition of the job was that I have to go to that other city to work. So I actually, um, took both my kids, very young at that time, took half the house, relocated to another city, took that job, no support system, no friends, totally new environment, very high demanding job, but loved every bit of the experience. I felt like there were times that I didn't have a life for myself. I didn't know what I was doing. But the minute I woke up and I, got into the daily things, getting the kids ready, taking them to daycare, and then dropping them off and going to work, and loved what I was doing at work. I mean, it kept me busy like crazy, but I absolutely enjoyed that experience, and it gave me such good foundation for what you can do. So again, a very tough choice, but I think that experience was awesome. It was amazing. um yeah. So the last example I would give is there was a point in time, and this was a lot of my career has been spent in the US. We spent 15 years in the US. I spent 15 years in the US from the time I moved. Husband was there much longer before I moved. But we as a family at a given point in time made a decision to move back to India. And that was a very tough decision because I mean, I loved being in the US. The experience that I got professionally was very happy. The environment was great. Loved it, right? But then the reason we wanted to move back to India was the fact that we didn't have any other family there, and our kids didn't know what it meant to have to be brought up in an environment where there's extended family and stuff like that, right? So that was another tough choice, but we made the choice. The company that I was working for supported me with the move as well. So that gave me an additional push and energy to kind of say, okay, I can do global roles from India. And I felt like there wasn't too much compromise I was making on the professional side of things. We moved, and it was a tough 2 years for the transition for all of us, and especially the kids, to transition into that. But it's been 11 years and doing well so far. So I guess hopefully that kind of alluded to some of the challenges and experiences of making choices that are holistic, that you should look at, not just profession or personal, but it's the holistic approach that you need to take.
Great. I mean, tough decisions, tough choices, tough times. I think when we look back to those decisions and the times that we've spent, it's a very great feeling. It's a great feeling that you could really make that decision for yourself, and you could pass through those times when you had to put in so much of effort. At that time you don't know what you're doing, but you're just going with the flow, going with the
Exactly.
routine, and then now when you look back to those times, it feels like, wow, I passed through that and I did it really well. So you did it really well, Madhavi. I think it's so good to hear these experiences from you, and I'm sure when you look back, you're proud of yourself with all the decisions that you've taken for yourself, for your family, for your work life, not compromising too much at the work. At least, keep going with it. Coming back to work after the first baby, I think you took that decision and then again got back to work and gave all your hard work to reach the level where you are today. I think I'm sure it's a proud moment for you.
Yeah, definitely is. Reflecting back, it seems like, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it's exciting to see that, you've made choices and lived through it, but you hit it bang on, Khushbu, that, at the time that you're going through it, you have no idea how you're gonna.
I know.
So I
True.
guess, yeah, I guess just, do the right thing that makes sense to you and make the right choices. It's not going to be easy. I'm never going to put it out there, but you can do it.
Right. Awesome. My next question is, what excites you to being, part of the tech industry?
Um, yeah, that's a loaded question. I don't know. It is exciting for sure. Um, but what excites me, I guess I can again go back to the passion and experience that I talked about. I'm a person who will get bored if I'm comfortable. If I'm doing the same thing, if I know what my day looks like, if I know what tomorrow looks like, um, it's not so exciting for me. And then look at technology, right? It changes every second. It's like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that, by the time you think you've caught up, which if you're thinking you're not right, you're never caught up, at least for me. And it has changed, right? By the time you
Yeah.
blink your eye, it's changed. So it's probably too dynamic, but that's very, very exciting. I like experimentation. I like doing new things. I like looking at, challenges. And for me, the word challenge is always, always, always replaced by opportunity. That it can bring to that it can solve, like a technology can solve for a business problem that has never been done before, or something that's been done in some other industry, and how I can make that difference to my business. That is very, very exciting. Um, and so I guess uh, the technology interventions you can do and create something different, something differentiating, and solving real problems brings a whole new, area of excitement, in addition to being able to experiment, okay to fail, but it's great learning, try new things, so those things are very, very exciting. And again, differentiating technologies for actual business problems, it gives you a kick, right? So that's what's exciting about the tech industry for me.
Wonderful. Great. My next question is, do you notice a lack of women in tech industry? And if so, why do you think that's the case?
Absolutely. But I'm not sure if it's limited to tech industry. I think professions, except for professions like nursing, except for a few professions that have more women, most of the professions, I think, lack a lot of lack women
Yeah.
in general, right? So I guess this question kind of applies to professions in general. Um, why that happens, I think we talked about a few examples.
Yeah.
Whether we like it, dislike it, deny it. Women do have a lot of priorities in life that they have to kind of look at, just from societal expectations, just from historical expectations, the biological changes that women go through, the life events that women have to take care of. Whether we like it or not, I think it's always good to kind of acknowledge it and face it. Right? These are real. There's no denial about it, and these do have an impact on professional life. Right? If you were to draw a graph from the time from school,
Yeah.
from high school, all the way to C-suite executives, and you look at
Yeah.
the women presence, right? I'm sure it's no surprise. It constantly declines. You can almost pinpoint exactly what lifetime or
Yeah.
age group or life events have caused the decline, right?
Yeah.
So the facts are out there, and there is no denial. So graduation, once you graduate, there's a decline. Marriage, there's a decline. Childbirth, there's a decline. Second childbirth, there's a decline. Right? And while I kind of talk about the fact that these are mostly the contributing factors, there are also other factors like financial dependence or independence, however you want to call it. All of these factors kind of have a impact on why you don't see so many women in professions, right? The other side of the equation, in addition to this, is on the pull side, right? Are organizations kind of really seeking out or looking for women talent? There's a lot of economics associated with the fact that having diversity, which actually converts and translates to diversity of thought, brings in the best results and the best outcomes for a company, right? But in order to support the growth of diversity in the ecosystem, are organizations looking at what supportive ecosystem need to be created in order to promote that diversity in the companies, right? So these are the two sides of the equation that I see are things that need to be taken care of in order to kind of increase that women presence in professional organizations. And I think technology is no exception.
Right. Very correctly, highlighted, in fact, the challenge that we as women face in our entire journey of life of, right from high school to the C-suite. I think very correctly highlighted. Awesome. My last question for today's session is, what advice would you want to give to women considering career in the tech industry, and what do you wish you had known?
Great. Again, I don't think this is related to specifically tech, but there are probably elements of tech that I can weave in. From the standpoint of a woman considering a professional career, irregardless, but specifically including tech, I guess, is, first and foremost, what I've learned early on in life is exposure is everything. So early on in your school life, in your college life, try to get exposed to as many. Breadth is very important, right? Like I kind of alluded to my own example. If I didn't do that workshop in high school, I don't think I would have felt that excitement because it was not part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what this was, something new. And you got to seek out those opportunities to get exposure into as many gamut of things as you can that are out there. You never know. I was talking to another lady very recently, another very successful woman, and she kind of talked to me about the fact that she was considering a IAS, Indian Administrative Service kind of career, and as part of that, she ended up doing something in legal, and she fell in love with that field, the law field. So she's a very successful lawyer today, right? So you never know. Exposure. Try to build as much breadth as possible early on, and you will find your passion. So that kind of relates to my next point as find and follow your passion. I'll be very, very honest. Early on in my career, when leaders told me, Madhavi, whatever you do, make sure you follow your passion. I'm like going crazy as to what is my passion. I don't know what my passion is, but it's just basically experimenting, trying new things, and looking at what excited you. Did you feel involved? Did you feel engaged? Did you feel happy about what you did, right? So as simple as that. So find and follow your passion, second one. The other thing, and I kind of alluded to in some of the examples of challenges you asked me, Khushbu, is your support system is very important.
Yeah.
And I think I talked about the personal support system around my family at that time. You also need to have a very good professional support system, both internal and external.
Correct.
Uh, and that is going to be so valuable for you. You need to have a combination of people that I call the board of directors, right? In your, for yourself, right? For your circle, personally and professionally, people who kind of motivate you, people who kind of play the devil's advocate, people who kind of question you and challenge you, people who show you the mirror, all kinds of people. So build that support system. And that's going to be valuable to the core, right? The other thing I'll say is know your non-negotiables. Don't try to be a superwoman. Doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Does not exist.
Yeah.
And don't try it. And you know, sometimes I felt like, you know, are people telling me to motivate me, or are they trying to make a fool out of me? Because I'm not going to kill myself, right? Doing everything, right? So know your non-negotiables, what you're not ready to compromise with.
Correct.
Everything else can be outsourced.
True.
Everything else can be outsourced, right? So, but then that also means that you do some compromises. You can't get everything in life, right? So, so know your non-negotiables.
Right.
Know what you're not ready to compromise with. Compromise everything else, right? And don't have a big list. You're not a superwoman, right? The other point I'll make is stay relevant. A lot of times life will throw crossroads at you where you have to make choices. Sometimes you might have to prioritize your professional life. Sometimes you have to prioritize your personal life. That doesn't mean that you're compromising, right? But no matter what you do, stay relevant. And this is a point that is very, very specific to technology, in addition to all other fields as well, but specifically around technology. Staying relevant, making sure that you're connected with your peer group, internal, external, you're constantly learning, looking at, you know, whatever your sources of information are, whatever kind of a learning person you are, make sure that you take the time to invest in yourself and staying relevant. That's very important, right? Last but not the least, just have fun. You know, I think life is all about experiences. So enjoy it. It's not going to be an easy walk, and nothing comes on a silver platter. It's going to be tough, but be tough, but have fun.
Right. Wow, wonderful. I think it's all your experiences that are talking, and so good to hear. So, I mean, very correctly, you know, mentioned all these points. I think that some very key, insightful pointers which, you know, women can take from this conversation. Thank you so much, Madhavi, for taking out time for us on this platform of CIO News and sharing your journey with us, and also your learnings. Thank you once again. Truly a Wonder Woman. I know you said don't try to be a superwoman, but I think with all these struggles that we go through, makes us Wonder Woman. So I really believe, you know, with what you've achieved so far, you're truly a Wonder Woman. Thank you for.
Thank you so much for inviting, and it was my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity. Absolutely enjoyed talking to you, Khushbu. And thanks so much again. It was wonderful.
Same here. Thank you.